Hi there, all you Cine-Pickers. This is Michaela and Kevin coming at you with another Cine-Pick. So this week on Cine-Picks was Kevin's turn to pick a movie for me to watch. So Kevin, what was the movie that you had me watch?
Alright, Michaela, this week my Cine-Pick was Brigsby Bear. Yeah.
Brigsby Bear.
Yeah.
Why did you pick this movie for me,
Because
Kevin?
I I like this movie. It's a it's an unusual movie, but I like it. It's a lower budget. I don't know if it's indie, but it's a lower budget. It had a lower distribution uh, than your usual blockbuster hit. But I really like this movie, and I feel like the future of cinema is going to look a lot more like this. Smaller movies, and mostly because movies are not making $1 billion anymore for obvious reasons. Uh, and so they can't invest. Studios can't invest hundreds of millions of dollars into making huge blockbuster hits. And so you're going to see a lot more of these smaller type movies coming out, especially since uh, we're not making movies for the big screen anymore. It's all for streaming now. And so you're gonna see a lot more of these smaller movies made for TV, because we're watching them on TV now. And so,
Yeah.
but I really like this movie. Yeah, I guess it's a Lonely Island production, which is
Yeah.
yeah
That
interesting. I
right.
haven't seen a lot of Lonely Island stuff, so but or
You haven't
is
seen
it?
the classic Jizz in My Pants?
No, I have not seen that. So
Or this is the tale of Captain Jack Sparrow, and then they have if that's the correct Lonely Island, but I don't know, maybe there's a difference between the Lonely Island and Lonely Island Productions. I
yeah,
don't know.
I believe it's the same. But yeah, it's interesting because there's not as much music in this one that you would expect in a Lonely Island production.
Right?
But I
Oh, Kevin, I still have to summarize the movie
right,
too.
yeah. So can you
Shoot.
summarize this movie? It's yeah. How would
Actually, I
you
feel like
how
it's
would you
like
summarize
more
it?
straightforward
Yeah,
than
I
you
don't
think
think it
it
was
is.
super. I don't think it's really that out there. I don't know.
It's
So
not real. I feel like for all of the movies that you've had me watch so far,
mhm.
this is probably the most seemingly mainstream. I'd
Yeah,
definitely say it's an indie film
hmm
because, like,
it's
what
got
do you
that
call
feel.
something that, yeah, it's like, what do you call something that's in between a cult film and a mainstream, widely distributed film? I
Hmm
think it's just indie. And, like, the premise is so weird,
hmm
but the way that the characters act is so normal that, and it has that like campfire feel. So
Yeah.
hang on, I gotta describe the film.
Okay.
So, so this film stars a whole bunch of people from SNL, and I love SNL. So the second I had no idea this was like an SNL headed film.
hmm
It stars Kyle Mooney,
Yeah.
who I love personally. I think Kyle Mooney is really underutilized on SNL because his sense of humor is very like I don't even know what to call it. It's like its own style
hmm
of like awkward humor where he's just really good at playing awkward kind of silent characters
Yeah.
and like that's his sense of humor. And so he like I think he like wrote the screenplay and like co-produced this film and did everything and he starred in this film. So it stars Kyle Mooney as would you say he's like a young adult or like a fully
Yeah.
grown man? We don't really know what age he is,
Right.
but it stars Kyle Mooney and he's this guy who lives in like an underground bunker with his parents
hmm
and he's seemingly emotionally stunted because he's obsessed with this TV show that his parents have him watching called Brigsby Bear. And he's very immersed in the world, he's very about the fandom until FBI agents come in and arrest the parents and we find out that he was actually a kidnapped child. He was abducted as a kid and and the Brigsby Bear show is not real.
Mm.
It's just something that his parents fabricated, I guess, maybe to keep him in line. We don't really know why,
Mm-hmm.
but they made up the TV show. It doesn't actually exist. And so the whole rest of the movie is basically him having to now go out and socialize with the real world as a person that's lived in an underground bunker and never really aged past like 11, maybe.
Right.
I don't know. And it's his whole, it's like his journey of basically rectifying all the things that kind of happened to him, and the fact that he's still very like obsessed with Brigsby Bear because that's kind of all he knows.
Mm-hmm.
So basically he goes on this journey of like making friends, and he like becomes determined to finish the Brigsby Bear series himself, and eventually he makes a movie of Brigsby Bear.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the film ends, and everybody has accepted him and his Brigsby Bear obsession. I don't know. I watched like one analysis video after I saw the movie the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I kind of want to know what take they have, because I think you can view the movie in two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time, I think I viewed it from like the nicer perspective, and then the second, because I had to watch it 2 times, Kevin, because of the first time, like too much time had passed after I watched it the first time, so I had to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
And like, actually, I'm gonna flop that. The first time I watched it, I definitely fed into the sentimentality of it, and then the second time I watched it, I was a little more pessimistic, and I was like, actually, why are you feeding his obsession with Brigsby Bear?
Yeah.
Why are you giving him more ammunition? But yeah, that's like a weird, like a constant thing too, I think, is, and that's what I think the film forces you to confront your own doubts about who the character is, what the character is going through.
Mm-hmm.
Because the entire movie, he's put in like these situations where you just can see everything is gonna go wrong. So like he has to go to his new sister's party
Yeah.
with all of these people he doesn't know, and I was just like watching him go through this party, and I'm like, this is not gonna end. I'm like, this is not going to end well. And like it went from him like meeting one friend and then all of a sudden all of the other young people friends were all surrounding him, talking to him and stuff, and like I was waiting for one of them to like pull a Carrie joke on him or something like that. I was waiting for the vat of like pig's blood to fall on his head. But weirdly enough, it never happened. They actually were just like genuinely kind of accepting of the fact that like this is this dude's first party. He's kind of weird, but like that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You still kind of accept him.
Yeah.
And that's the weirdest thing to me is that like he seems to find acceptance from people, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to say for no reason.
Yeah.
But they are seemingly very, like, he seems to win them over.
Yeah.
With his love of Brigsby Bear throughout the movie, and then they eventually end up on his side, like, supporting him wanting to finish the Brigsby Bear saga.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there's another pessimistic side of me that's like, but the reality is that this is a guy that's lived in a bunker for the entirety, like, of his life.
Yeah.
He's thought that there was, like, an apocalyptic world upstairs that nobody can breathe in.
Yeah.
Without masks. Like he needs some serious psychological, like, help.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, they need to ease him into stuff. But yet he's just like thrown. It's like a fish out of water story.
Yeah.
And I think I know what they were trying to get at. I think they were trying to do the thing where they're like, this is a guy who's never really grown up, and by finishing the Brigsby Bear trilogy or the Brigsby Bear filming of the show and of the movie, this is him like moving on.
Yeah.
But you could also see it as this dude is having like this weird fantasy, and this is all in his head. and and this guy's like not well. Actually, I'm gonna reverse it again. I think that's how I interpreted it the first time, and then the second time around, I was like, oh, this is actually just really sweet and heartwarming. The first time I was kind of like, what? And spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! At the end of the movie, the Brigsby Bear movie premieres, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sees Brigsby Bear on the stage, and he's like, "Good job, pal!" And then he like disintegrates into the air. And you could see that, like, you could take that in two ways. You could see that as, James, Kyle Mooney, is, he's moved on. He's grown up. He's found acceptance in filmmaking. He's found a niche in the real world in expressing himself through art or whatever. Or you could say, oh, this guy's like, he's batshit insane. He just manifested Brigsby Bear on the stage, and Brigsby Bear just disintegrated into thin air. So it's almost like it's poking fun at you. Like, it's saying, do you want to like take this at face value and just accept this is kind of like a campy, nostalgic, like with a weird premise, but like, why is it so endearing kind of film? Or are you the pessimistic person that's gonna keep wondering why everybody is accepting this guy who's clearly not well? I mean, granted, like, I think the characters were all really, really well formed, which kind of makes you care for them, which is kind of like the opposite of a lot of the movies that we've been looking at lately, Kevin.
Yeah.
We're like, the characters aren't very good because they're not written well. Like, they're actually written pretty well in this one.
Yeah, I like this movie. I don't know, there's several reasons why I like this movie, but yeah, number one, it's very well written. The story is very clear, from, like, as you said, like, it flows very well all the way through. You understand what's going on. Also, the characters, like James, as you said, like, everybody accepts James, but I feel like they don't just accept him because the script said this guy is your friend. You know, they accept him because he wins people over, and he's able to, like, and organically win people over too. You know, it's not like people, like, there's his sister's friend. That guy is just genuinely nice, right? He doesn't know anything about James, yet he's like super nice and like accommodating at the party.
I was so suspicious of him.
He is, yeah.
Like, he has ulterior motive.
Right. He is, yeah. He's the one character who is suspiciously nice. He is like genuinely a really nice guy. You know, everybody else, James does have to win over a little bit, like his sister, you know, and other, you know, the detective and whatever, you know, he does it very, you know, very organically, and it's very, you know, you can see it happening where he starts gaining their trust and able to get to the point where he can ask them for favors and to help him finish his movie, and they'll say yes, you know, and it's very, you know, it's very believable and organic, and so like so the characters are just really well, and their development is also really good. I like, you know, the topic of the movie, or at least James's situation, it's somewhat of a sensitive topic, or it's a difficult topic to navigate, you know, being kidnapped and then having to be reintegrated into society. It's a difficult subject to like to tackle in a comedy, right? Like, it's and so,
you know what this reminds me of? It's like Wes Anderson's take on child abduction.
Right? Yeah. But it's still somewhat believable, like, because Wes Anderson would still have his Wes Anderson-y, the way he films it and everything, and his framing and of all the shots. So it seems, so like, because Wes Anderson is like it's like literally reading a storybook, you know, and so it's very non-realistic, and his dialogue is not realistic. Whereas Brigsby Bear, it seems very realistic.
Yeah,
And
like, you're in the real world. You're not
yeah.
in like a fantasy world that's crafted by Wes Anderson.
And a lot of the exposition is also felt really natural. Like, there was only one exposition scene that seemed a little bit forced, which is at the very end, where James is visiting his fake father in prison, and he tells him, the whole story. Where like that one seemed a little bit forced, but the rest of the exposition was really, it was very natural. And you learn along the way with James, and so you find out that Brigsby Bear is not a real TV show the same time James finds out, and you find out, you start to discover little by little what's going on, at the same time James is learning. And so it, even at the beginning of the movie, because the way they do a really good job of putting you in James's situation. And so even at the very beginning of the movie, you see James, he's in the bunker, he knows that he can't go outside, and that maybe there's something going on. And so the movie starts off making you believe that there is something happening, that something has happened, and now people have to live in bunkers, right? And so at the beginning of the movie, you as an audience believe it the same way that James believes it. And then the second James finds out that there's nothing wrong is the same time you find out as well. And so the movie does a really good job of putting you in James's shoes and taking you along the journey along with James. And so it's
I definitely
very well
felt
done.
like I was in a different, I'm talking about different worlds here, but with no relation to Wes Anderson, I do feel like I was in a completely different world in the very beginning. I thought that this was going to be a completely different movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the cops came in.
Right.
And the parents were like, you have to be brave. And James is like, what's happening?
Right.
And all of a sudden it pulled this this Parasite sort of twist on you.
Mm-hmm.
Where instead of it getting really dark, it started out kind of dark,
mm-hmm.
and then pulled a 180 and was like, this is going to be a fish out of water story now.
Mm-hmm.
Bet you weren't expecting that. But it worked.
Mm-hmm.
It worked though.
Yeah.
Because the world that they built at the beginning was so immersive, and they didn't really bother to explain too much. Like you were just watching James and his interactions with his parents,
mm-hmm.
talking about stuff that was obviously not real,
mm-hmm.
but they had they built so much world up. It was established right off of the bat, through all of the visuals, through the way that they interacted with each other, through all of the posters and stuff on James's wall.
Mm-hmm.
Again, very log cabin-y.
Yeah.
I wrote down in my notes that I took on my phone this time.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, this feels like summer camp. The whole movie actually kind of feels like summer camp.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just the fact that, there's so many endearing scenes of James, being kind of awkward and whatever, but his friends are just so accepting. And when something weird kind of happens, they don't brush him off. They just kind of go oh, haha, whatever, and then they work with it. They work with it. It's so idealistic. It's in an ideal world, I wish everybody was just was this nice to people who were different.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also get the psychologist who's there is something wrong with you
mm-hmm.
that you so that's why I'm so torn, because I'm okay, is he just different, or does he literally have something wrong with him? Because Brigsby Bear is his literal obsession. He breaks in and he steals set pieces, and Greg Kinnear is the cop
mm-hmm.
who turned actor, breaks police protocol on the scene of a crime and goes back to retrieve the costumes from the set for him. It's his purpose in life.
Yeah.
Brigsby Bear is all he is.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wanted to be pessimistic and be this is not healthy to be giving him more ammo, basically, to continue when Brigsby Bear doesn't have to be all that he is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe he's just different.
Yeah. And so
funny.
Because I feel like so Brigsby Bear that was a big part of his life in the bunker, right? Like that was his obsession, but it was never finished, right? And so and like so it was a big part of his life, but also like not finished, and then so he's a little like so that there's like this little piece of his heart that is missing that can only be filled with this final episode of Brigsby Bear, right? But also, normally you could get over that, but then he finds out that his father or his fake father was the one who created Brigsby Bear, and and also you find out that Brigsby Bear was created by someone. I think that was the biggest revelation for him. It was also created by the person he thought was his father, but in general, that it was created, and that movies and TV shows are created by people, and like that was huge for him. And then he realized, like, well, I'm also a person. I can finish this. Like I want Brigsby Bear needs to be finished, and I can do it. Like, why not? Who says I can't? And so it's really like it's a really interesting story. It's kind of a like a somewhat therapeutic thing for him. It's understandable to see that you shouldn't be associating yourself with things that are related to your capture. Like it's natural for his parents to be concerned and for a psychiatrist to be concerned about this sort of stuff. But at the same time, there is absolutely nothing, or at least there is no evidence to show that Brigsby Bear itself was malicious at all. And you also find out, you find out later in the movie, so Brigsby Bear was made by his captured father, who was played by Mark Hamill, and you find he created Brigsby Bear. At the beginning of the movie, you're a little suspicious because at the beginning of the movie, you think that he is the one who's a little crazy. Because he's the only one who cares about Brigsby Bear as much as James does. His mother's like, what's the point? Get over, like, why are you so obsessed about this? So you think that maybe the mother is normal and the father is weird. Turns out it's the complete opposite. That the father is normal and the mother is the one who's a little bit unhinged. And she's the one who actually kidnapped him. And it was the father, and so.
Wait, when do we learn this?
At the very end, remember that forced exposition scene I was talking about in the prison?
Yeah.
Mark Hamill tells the whole story.
That it's mom.
Yeah, it was his wife, Mark's his wife kidnapped James as a baby and brought him home, and that was the thing, and so. So she was the one. Also, you find she's also like a mathematician, and so maybe she like fried her brain working on some crazy equation. I don't know. It was you don't. That's up in the air for speculation as to why she is the way she is. But anyways, you find out that she is the one that kidnapped him. That actually, that. Mark Hamill's character is actually fairly normal. He's and so at least I suspect that Brigsby Bear was kind of was created more out of sympathy for James, because if James is in this situation, he shouldn't have to be in this situation, being locked up in a bunker, like, and so Brigsby Bear was created more out of sympathy. That's my personal belief. There's nothing malicious behind Brigsby Bear, and there's no evidence. As they show you clips from Brigsby Bear. There's absolutely no evidence showing that like this is there's any malicious intent behind it. And in fact, there's no like weird propaganda. There's no brainwashing messages or whatnot. Like. It's educational, so like this is where James gets his education. Also teaches morals. Teaches there's a clip of Brigsby Bear that you watch where like it reminds James which trash cans to put different trash in, you put the recycling in the green, you put the food in the red bin, and you do, and so it's kind of like, parenting. It's educational. It's it's stimulating. It's everything that James needs to develop into a healthy person under the current circumstances of being locked in a bunker for his entire life.
Right.
And
The
so,
part of me also wonder too that without Brigsby Bear, would he have been able to um, integrate himself into society as well as he did
right? Yeah.
after? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's understandable for the psychiatrist and his parents to want to keep him away from Brigsby Bear because it was a huge part of his, his abduction and everything. But at the same time, after, as we go through the movie, you learn that there's nothing wrong with Brigsby Bear. And, and I think, my personal theory, I don't put a lot of thought into it, but my personal theory, when he sees Brigsby Bear at the end of the movie and then he disappears, that's kind of, that's the end of Brigsby Bear in James's life. He's accomplished what he wants. Now he has friends, he has family, he's finished his Brigsby Bear. Brigsby Bear is finished now. There's no reason to continue with it. And personally, I'm like, at the end of, after watching it, I'm like, I want to see what James does next. Like, does he continue making movies? What's an original movie that James would make? Now that he's finished Brigsby Bear, what's his next film project? I'm excited to see what the next movie is that James is gonna make.
I want to think that James changed his name to Kyle Mooney and went and joined SNL.
Right.
is what I want. Is what I want to think. But that's. Oh, can we also talk about Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
And how freaking awesome Mark Hamill is in this movie, and how much I want him to be my best friend.
Right.
He's so good. But also the voices. Oh my god, how many voices does that man have stored?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Because that's basically been his career since Star Wars. After the original trilogy, he's just been doing voice acting mostly. So. He's
voiced some of my favorite characters, though. Voice actors are just, it's amazing. Like how you have so many different voices to come up with for things. It's just great. Oh, and can we also talk about the irony of this film? Think about it. This is a film that was made by James's film. The Brigsby Bear movie is a movie that was filmed by James and his friends. It's not meant to make capital. It's not meant to be a big thing. He doesn't even really want it to be a big thing. He just wants to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's his friend. What was his name? Spencer, I think, who's the filmmaker.
Yeah.
It was him that circulated it online.
Yeah.
With the digital copies, and was like, this could be really big. But James is just like, I don't really care. I just like making movies with my friends. And I remember seeing at that movie premiere on the title screen, it said the Brigsby Bear movie that I made with my friends.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, but think about the irony of it is that that's what happens in the movie. But the movie Brigsby Bear itself is literally a passion project that Kyle Mooney made with his friends. This is a movie that a guy made with his friends about a movie this is a movie. Oh my god, wait. I have a point to this. Wait. I'm gonna figure it out. Word by word.
Okay.
This is a movie that a guy made with his friends about a guy who makes a movie with his friends. And the irony is great, and I have to wonder if maybe the other actors who got on board for this film also kind of saw how freaking funny that is. The fact that they had to film this indie film, what I think is an indie film, they had to film it on their break from SNL, and they got all these random big A-lister celebrities to come in supporting roles in this movie. it's like that's also in and of itself kind of weirdly humbling and endearing to
Right.
see like A-list actors acting alongside Kyle Mooney just being awkward. Like, I don't know. It's the weirdest dichotomy of like mainstream with a weird concept. It's
Right.
it's so weird. But it works. But it works so well. Like,
Yeah.
do you wonder what would happen if this was like widely distributed? Like maybe if they marketed this differently?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Because it seems like it was mostly film festival stuff, and then yeah, it was direct to video or streaming. But I think it would have been big. I really like it. It's yeah, but because right now I just looked it up, and the box office it made $500,000 is the box office grossing. I don't see what the budget is. It does. I can't. Doesn't say what the budget is.
Couldn't be a huge budget. I mean, but it also doesn't look homemade either.
Yeah,
Like
it,
it's
it's
competently made and filmed.
yeah, it's independently film. Or well, let's see. So the production company Sony Picture Classics and Lord Miller Productions, Lonely Island Classics, 3311 Productions, Wild Pictures. It seems like, I think maybe Sony came in for distribution purposes, but I'm trying to yeah. But yeah, it seems like it's yeah, independent. I mean the box office, $500,000 in box office is not very much. So, but it wasn't widely distributed, so it couldn't have been expected to make that much money. I don't know. But
Right?
but that's what I'm
Maybe that
talking.
wasn't the point,
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
and so that's what I'm saying when I said before we're going to see a lot more of these movies in the future because this is the kind of money we're expecting movies to make in the future. Like we're not expecting to be making, hundreds of millions of dollars in box office in the future because there's no box office anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know though. I have to give, like, going to see a movie in person can vastly, I think, enhance your experience with
yeah.
movies. Honestly, watching a movie on a screen, it's just not this, it really isn't the same.
Mhm.
Which is why I can't help, like, I wish that indie cinema was still popular.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I mean,
well,
you said
it,
you're
it
making a
died
comeback, which is
so
gonna be great. But I wish that they would also make a comeback in theaters too.
Michaela, I think, we've talked a lot about Brigsby Bear, and I am interested to see what do you think of it? How would you
Yeah.
rate Brigsby Bear?
Before I give it the rating, I do want to say something. It's the one weird thing that I have
Mm-hmm.
with this film, and that is the fact that for some odd reason, I didn't want to watch it a second time. I ended up watching it a second time because I had issues remembering like weird issues with like remembering things.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, after that first watching, I kind of felt resolved. Like I didn't feel like I needed to watch it again,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to watch it again for some
Yeah.
reason.
Hmm.
I don't know why, because this is such a feel-good sort of film
Yeah.
with an odd concept that this is like I feel like this could be a movie that seemingly everyone that you introduce this to could find something in it that appeals to them.
Yeah.
Like if you like the absurdity of the storyline, then that would be great. If you like the endearing, well-written characters, you might like that.
Mm-hmm.
The nostalgia feel, that could also. So like this film feeds into all of the things that help make you feel kind of comforted at the end of the day. Like I can go to bed happy now, in a
Yeah.
way. This makes me feel so good. So how come I didn't want to watch it a second time? I don't know.
Hmm.
And part of me has to wonder if maybe you ruined it for me because you've had me watch, because this is the most normal film you've had
That's
me
true.
watch the entire time. I was like, almost to the point where I was going through that entire film with suspicions,
Hmm.
because I'd become so pessimistic. I was like, this isn't weird enough. Something weird has to happen. Like, it has to be weirder. This
Hmm.
isn't weird enough for me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just, maybe it's that I felt like the drive wasn't like not the pacing, because the pacing of the movie was fine,
Hmm.
but like I didn't feel a sense of like urgency, you know,
Yeah.
or agency in the story. And so it was kind of easy in a way to kind of put it on the back burner of your mind. Like I saw it. That was super weird, but really, really good.
Hmm.
But I didn't really feel the need afterward to run out and tell all my friends about it. Even though I know that this is the type of film that I think would be a great film to ease them into indie films and to ease them into cult films.
Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't feel the need to run out and tell everybody to watch it. But I did like it, which is the weird, like, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed the movie the first time I watched it. But after I gave it a week, like a week in between, I was like, we're having this talk, and I can't remember. I have to watch it again. But I like it took some weird convincing to talk myself into wanting to watch it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just me. I don't know what that's all about.
Hmm.
So I have to give a point off
Yeah.
purely for memorability. For memorability, that's not even a word.
Yeah.
Memorableness.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know because I don't know. That's just maybe it must be a personal thing for me. But
Hmm.
that's what you come here for, right? It's
Yeah.
my personal
Right.
opinions.
Yeah.
Um, so I think if I could give a score to Brigsby Bear, I would give it, because it did have a good story and really good characters. I'm gonna say 8.5 out of 10.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. That's fair.
8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Potentially even more because I really actually did. I hate saying I liked how mainstream it was. The mainstreamness can be kind of refreshing of it,
Hmm.
but it's like it's indie enough and self-aware enough that that adds a lot of interest to it too.
Hmm.
It's so hard to rate these films because this is the first film that's really a mainstream film, and it's been really difficult rating the other ones
Hmm.
because they're all so obscure and like
Yeah.
you have to use a different scale when you rate them. But this one can actually be rated on the normal scale, and I feel like because of that it should be lower, but because of that it should also be higher.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the film. I think
Hmm.
that there's something in this film for everyone.
Hmm.
Totally. Um, but at the same time, it's definitely an indie film. I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah.
I would recommend it. Um, for repeated watchings, I don't know, but at least to experience Brigsby Bear and like witness what this person and his friends, even if they are famous friends, like that they put together. Like you can tell it was a film that was made with love.
Hmm.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, Kevin, what
So.
would you give?
So. Yeah. I don't know. I agree with just about everything that you were saying. So as I was watching this movie, I came to the conclusion I think is a perfect movie. Like when you think about like what makes a good movie, this movie nailed every single aspect, like everything. It's a perfect movie. Um, that being said, it's not my favorite movie, and I kind of agree with you on memorability. Like it, because yeah, what was it? Last time I watched it was about a week and a half ago, and yeah, I also have difficulty remembering some things from it, and like it's not like fresh in my mind, and like I almost watched it again last night just so I can like prepare for this talk, but So I agree with you, like it's not super memorable, but so I watched it. So the first time I watched it was like 2 years ago, I think. The first time I watched it, and so I watched it again, a couple weeks ago, and it just brings back this nostalgia and like just this feel good. This movie is just like when you think like the definition of feel good should have like a picture of Brigsby Bear right next to it. Like this movie is like the definition of feel good. It just makes you feel so good. So
it's like if Cool Cat, what is that one? Cool Cat and the Kids, that
yeah.
film. It's like if Cool Cat and the Kids was better,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's got that wholesome sort of feel to it, but it also doesn't take itself incredibly serious.
Yeah.
There's a sense of there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And so I believe there's a formula to telling a good story, a formula to developing characters, a formula to pacing, a formula to just everything. There's a formula, and a formula that's been developed over the thousands of years of telling stories, right? Like and this movie nailed that formula perfectly. And so this is the thing that like it kills me whenever I watch a bad movie because like the formula has been established. Okay, when you go to college and you learn how to write a story, they will give you the formula. This is the formula. Like, and these people like, and it just kills me that people are still making bad movies and telling bad stories or telling good stories badly. Like, it kills me. Like, you know how to do this. You like it's established. Like, how did somebody let you make a bad movie? Like, it's shame on the producers for hiring you. But this movie was perfect. It just nailed everything perfectly. That being said, it's not my favorite movie, even though like I can't help but just smile while watching the entire movie. It just makes me so happy. So I think I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah. Even so, it does. I think that if every single movie followed the formula as perfectly as this, then people would love movies, because there's some people like, I don't care for movies, but it's like, no. Like, you don't care for movies because you haven't seen a good movie. Like, watch Brigsby Bear. Then you will like movies. But still, like, I like it because it's formulaic, but at the same time, as you were saying, like, you like it because it's mainstream, like, it's take points out because it's mainstream, but also maybe give points because it's mainstream. Like, I have to give it points because if you followed the formula, but it's also very formulaic.
I know, right?
So
it's like a weird,
yeah,
like, juxtaposition of
right.
Of things that are what's it called? It's a dialectic.
It's super refreshing, but at the same time, I'm like, you didn't really make any risks. You didn't take any risks at the same time.
Right, it's two opposing concepts that are true at the same time.
But content-wise, they did take a huge risk. This is the topic they chose for this movie. It's not an easy topic to tell a story about, especially a comedy. It's not easy, and they nailed it. And so for that, I have to give it more points. So it's like, yes, like it's refreshing because it's formulaic, but they did take risks with the subject matter and nailed it perfectly. Like, it wasn't insensitive at all. It wasn't cringy. It was, it was perfect. And so, yeah, so that's why I'm 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that we're finally agreeing on,
right?
on a movie.
We did it.
We finally agree on something. That this movie is just wholesome fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the next step would be I have to give you a film.
Yeah. So what would your Cine-Pick be for next week?
So, and the movie that I have picked is the 1970s, somewhere in the 70s, I can't remember the exact date, 1970s adult animated film called Fritz the Cat.
Okay.
And I'm just really interested to see what you think of this very controversial film. So,
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, because I've known about Fritz the Cat for a while, so yeah, I'm
right,
excited to finally watch it.
not nearly enough people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, even when you look it up on YouTube, like I thought that there would be more analysis videos for it, but there actually aren't.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It
mysterious.
it
So,
pop. Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like it's famous for only one thing, and that is being an adult animated film. Like an animated film for adults. That's the only thing it's famous for. And I see it pops up in documentaries every once in a while, but like nobody really talks about it that much. So I'm intrigued. Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. All right, Michaela. Well, thank you for talking with me about Brigsby Bear. I'm excited to share this movie with you, and yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and
I'm excited to hear your comments on Fritz the Cat, which is
yeah,
the exact opposite of Brigsby Bear
right.
on the whole level. So
So if everybody, you don't want to miss our discussion on Fritz the Cat, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications and leave comments below if you want to recommend a Cine-Pick for us. And we'll see you next week.
see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.